almost the end of Mental Health Awareness Month. I actually have a mental health related podcast coming up that you'll hear sometime later this summer. But in the meantime, I'm like, it wasn't going to work to post that in May. So what can I share? And I've been sharing other people's posts. People put so much amazing stuff out there. And I'm like, thinking about it today, and I'm like, really the only thing I can probably share personally that's going to be unique compared to everything else that's out there on the internet already about Christianity and mental health is my own story. And I realized I don't think I've ever really shared that part of my story on the internet before. I think I've like mentioned emotions in posts on my personal Instagram. I don't think even there I've really talked about like my journey with mental health and the diagnosis that I have and stuff like that. So thought I'd do that here, and I hope it's helpful. The best place I know to start is when I was about like 8-ish years old. I mean, even before that, I was always a pretty emotional person, and that was tough because I grew up around people who were like, you only cry when there's a good reason. People who maybe felt like I was trying to emotionally manipulate them by crying when really I was just having big feelings that I didn't know how to process, and I couldn't stop myself from crying if I wanted to because I was a young kid still learning emotional regulation. That definitely continued to be a part of my journey. And then, yeah, when I was around the age of like 8 to 10 years old, I started getting really intense anxiety, especially when I was going to bed and like trying to sleep. I would just get this like horrible knot in my stomach and feel terrible. Most of the time have no idea where it was coming from or why I felt that way. And so I'd go talk to my parents and we would read scripture together. But sometimes like the idea that would get in my head is like, what if I feel this way because I've done something wrong and I'm feeling guilty about it, right? Because there was a lot of discussion of like conviction and guilt in the tradition I grew up in. But I didn't know what I'd done wrong. It wasn't like always a particular thing. Sometimes there would be a thing. Maybe it would start with that thing, or maybe I would be feeling terrible and I'd be like, oh, maybe it's because of this thing that I did. I remember one time I was doing a project for school and we had to collect like leaves for it. And I was with like my mom and my siblings and we're like walking around the neighborhood looking for leaves. And we ended up picking one off of a tree from a neighbor's front yard. And I remember afterwards just feeling this horrible guilt and like, we shouldn't have taken that leaf off of their tree. That was stealing. Like, I know like they probably won't even notice, but like rules are rules and stealing is wrong and we shouldn't have done that. We should have like gone up to the door and asked permission first. Like, I just felt so bad and I was so anxious and I just wanted this anxiety and this guilt to go away, and I couldn't make it go away. Even when I talked to my mom and she's like, I really don't think it's a big deal. I don't think the neighbor cares. I still felt this intense anxiety and I felt that I had to do something about it. And well, later in my life, I would find out why it was that I felt that way. Yeah, and then there would be other things where it's like maybe I said something that wasn't very kind to another person like 3 months ago and that's why I feel so anxious tonight. Like maybe I need to call them and apologize for that. And sometimes I would like call someone up on the phone who I didn't know very well and say like, hey, I just feel like I haven't been very kind to you and like God's been convicting me about that, and apologize. And they'd be like, okay, Lizzie, like I really wasn't offended by that at all, but thank you, I guess. And then we would hang up and I'd be like, wow, weird interaction there, huh? I wouldn't necessarily feel better after that. I mean, I feel a little better usually because it's like, okay, I guess they're not mad at me, but now I feel weird that I called them and made a big deal about this whole thing that apparently they hadn't even noticed before, and maybe now they're worried about it.